What's up, everyone? Today we're doing a rhetorical analysis of the high school commencement speech President Obama gave virtually on May 16th, 2020. Before watching this video, I suggest that you watch the video of his actual speech, and I'll put the link to that in the description box below. I've split the transcript of President Obama's speech into 3 parts, and you can pause this video at any time to read over the transcript on your own, but I'm just going to jump in and start to analyze the rhetorical choices that President Obama made to help convey his message. So first off, in this block that I've highlighted, I want to take note of the fact that President Obama is initially expressing pride in the class of 2020, as well as teachers, coaches, and other individuals. So this expression of pride is definitely something we're going to want to remember later on in the speech and just in general as we're reading. Next, President Obama really establishes an empathetic tone in this underlined section. He talks about how many high school seniors have had to overcome challenges including illnesses and parents losing jobs and other similar situations. So through this tone, President Obama is showing an understanding of this generation's unique experiences. He's not speaking from a lofty perspective. Instead, he's establishing rapport with his listeners by showing that he really does understand what they're going through. And in this next part, President Obama includes a really humorous interjection that's set apart by these M dashes. So that interjection displays his sense of lighthearted candor. He's not taking himself too seriously. After all, this is a commencement speech, and he does want to lift the spirits of the viewers and the listeners. In this last part, where President Obama refers to the fact that you probably weren't expecting to be watching Tiger King on TV with your parents in the last few months of your senior year, this is a great example of understatement, because you most definitely did not envision that the fact that your senior year would end this way. And this understatement really contributes to the overall humorous effect that President Obama is trying to create in the beginning of this speech. And he continues that when he uses self-deprecating humor, talking about the fact that his own commencement speeches go on way too long. And this self-deprecating humor, again, just really helps ingratiate President Obama with the viewers, the listeners, the high school seniors who are listening to him, not necessarily as someone who is an adult, but really someone who has been in their shoes, someone who knows what it's like to be a student, to be in their place. In this paragraph here, President Obama uses really short sentence fragments when he says that you get to decide what's important to you, the kind of career you want to pursue, who you want to build a family with, the values you want to live by. And the reason why he uses these shorter fragments is because at the end of the day, brevity is the soul of wit. And by delivering these really concise, sharp statements, he's adding emphasis to his message and kind of piquing the listener's interest with his delivery. This is the second portion of the speech. So here, President Obama is shifting from a lighthearted tone to a more serious tone when he says that high school seniors aren't necessarily going to be able to go to campus in the fall. And he's trying to be realistic here to show the situation that we are actually living in. And he continues to do this when he states that those who were struggling before are now hanging on by a thread. And this is an idiomatic expression that really underscores the pandemic's devastating impact and the fact that the pandemic has deepened the inequities that we've already been facing. So next, President Obama talks about the ways in which society needs to collaborate and care for one another. So he uses a parallel structure in this underlined portion. He starts every clause with the word that. So he's saying that the old ways of doing things just don't work, that it doesn't matter how much money you make if everyone around you is hungry and sick, and so on and so forth. And this parallel structure in this long sentence really emphasizes his point that democracy relies on the efforts of each individual person to work together, unite, and tackle these tough challenges together. And that parallel structure really contributes to that. President Obama also refers to a metaphorical curtain when he says that the pandemic has pulled the curtain back on another hard truth. So I really like this technique because he's talking about a metaphorical curtain in the sense that a curtain might be present on the stage of a high school graduation, but he's also figuratively pulling the curtain back by revealing these hard truths that we haven't necessarily been forced to face before. And that truth is, next, we can see that he uses a rhetorical question when he says, all those adults that you used to think were in charge and knew what they were doing. So that is the hard truth that he's trying to drive at here, showing these high school seniors and students in general that they have more power than they think. So this rhetorical question is meant to empower students and show that they don't necessarily need to wait their turn, so to speak, in order to start making an impact now. And also, President Obama continues on and starts to use a bit of colloquial diction, which he has been doing throughout the speech when he says, since I'm one of the old guys. I wish I could tell him that he's not that old, but it's just a way for him to show that he's establishing this casual sort of tone throughout the speech so that he's not, again, trying to be super lofty in any way. And at the end, he uses logos when he refers to past examples in which America has been resilient and has come out stronger. So those examples that he's referring to are slavery, the Civil War, famine, disease, the Great Depression, and 9/11. So this is an example of inductive reasoning because he's referring to past examples and applying them to the current situation. He's saying that if we have been able to overcome all of these things in the past, we can definitely overcome the situation that we are going through right now, and we will emerge stronger from it. Here is the third portion of the transcript. So in this highlighted part, President Obama is saying that a lot of so-called grown-ups still do not have what it takes to tackle this pandemic head on. And the subtext of this passage, or the underlying implied meaning of this quote, is that President Obama is criticizing the American government's response to the pandemic. So he's not necessarily pointing any fingers, but he's trying to help you think about this situation critically and perhaps analyze the global and nationwide response to this crisis. And later on, President Obama uses a parallel structure again when he repeats the word if in the beginning of successive clauses. He says, if we're going to get through these difficult times, if we're going to create a world, if we're going to save the environment. And by repeating the word if we're going, he's highlighting a lot of different issues we need to tackle collectively as a society, but also take note of the fact that President Obama has switched from using the word you to the word we. So this is a symbolic switch in our own minds from an individualistic mentality to a more collaborative mentality. So we need to not just think of ourselves as individuals in this moment, but also parts of a larger whole. And also, President Obama is including lots of different calls to action with really active, powerful verbs. He says, be alive, stand up, leave behind, set the world. And including these powerful calls to action at the end of a speech is always really effective because it kind of tells the audience what they need to do after listening to this speech overall. And remember how I said that we need to remember that President Obama began this speech with a sense of pride initially? Well, he mirrors that pride mentioned at the beginning when he says at the end that because in so many ways you've already started to lead. Congratulations, class of 2020, keep making us proud. So I love when speakers come full circle and they begin and end their speech on a similar note because this just delivers a really impactful message to the audience and shows that if President Obama wants you to take one thing away from this speech, it is his pride in this class of high school seniors and his belief that they can do anything. I hope you all enjoyed this video and President Obama's speech. Comment down below with your reactions to his commencement address and let me know what you thought about it. If you did like this rhetorical analysis, give this video a thumbs up and subscribe and tap the bell to receive notifications whenever I make a new video. I'll see you next time.